Ilya noticed Anya as soon as she crossed the threshold of their class. There had never been such beautiful girls in their village. The village girls were all big, broad-boned, round-faced, snub-nosed with a thick braid to the waist. Anya, on the other hand, seemed to have been carved by the most skillful sculptor on earth. She is short, fragile, with a fashionable haircut of blonde hair, plump lips and eyes with a haze. They moved from the city to the village, where her father was transferred to work. Looking surreptitiously into those eyes took Ilya's breath away. The village classmates, noisy at recess in the schoolyard, constantly jumped into the classics, then into the rubber band. Anya always sat mysteriously on the windowsill and stared at the sky with wide-open eyes. Or read it. She never parted from the book at all. Once Ilya secretly spied what she was reading. It turned out to be poetry. Quiet, sophisticated, romantic. Anya turned the guy's head completely. He also began to borrow poetry from the library. Pushkin and Lermontov had already been almost read to holes by them, and when one day Anya was accidentally knocked down by a boy at recess, the director asked Ilya to escort a classmate home. They walked slowly, Anya limped, Ilya carried her briefcase along the main street. We started talking word by word. Anya was very surprised that she had something to talk about with the village guy. She promised to give him Bloch, Gumilev and Svetiva to read if he would pick her up at school tomorrow morning. Since then, their friendship began, which turned into a tender first feeling. They couldn't live a day without each other, and they agreed that as soon as they became adults, they would definitely get married. However, Ilya was immediately drafted into the army after school, and Anya honestly waited for him. And she waited. The families of both were against their marriage. For Anya, her parents wanted an educated and worthy groom for their daughter. Ilya's family did not understand at all how such a reed could run a household. He needs a strong country wife, blood and milk, but nothing could separate the lovers, and they just went to the village council and signed, putting all the relatives in front of the fact. There was nothing to do. Now the adults could only help to establish the life of a young family. The newlyweds settled in the house of Ilya's grandmother. She recently died, and he inherited a nice spacious house. Ilya was working, and the fragile Anya shouldered the whole household. She turned out to be very agile and hardworking. Of course, there were enough cases, as in any household. The large garden required maintenance. There is always something to patch up in the house itself. Besides, a few years ago, Anya became interested in animal husbandry. She got some tiny decorative chickens, quails, guinea fowls that laid colored eggs. And quails are speckled eggs the size of a thimble. So they lived in love and harmony for 10 years. And now Anya is over 30, the house is full, there is everything that her heart desires, and the rooms have not been filled with children's laughter. Anya was very worried at first, but then she resigned herself. So this is her fate. They did not want to take a child from an orphanage, although they could choose the best one, and the age they would like. But they agreed among themselves that they would not do this, and still try to give birth to their own, but it didn't work out. Ilya's mother sawed off everything. I told you, don't marry her. What kind of wife is she, especially a mother? She's a skinny herring, she won't fall apart. He didn't listen. Here, your classmates all have 2 or even 3 children. And you messed with this hollow flower. Ilya snapped. He never gave offense to his love, so his mother expressed all her complaints only to him. And he believed that he and Anya would definitely have a baby, because they were so dreaming about it. Except he couldn't even imagine how and when it would happen. How many examinations and treatments they have already had cannot be counted. The doctors just threw up their hands. Both spouses are completely healthy. But most of all, Ilya was worried that Anya began to withdraw into her grief and began to go to church, that they've been drifting apart lately. She prays to the temple, and he goes to the forest, only there he could feel peace and harmony with himself. He took a basket and went to wander along the paths familiar from childhood. Sometimes it seemed to him that he was not looking for mushrooms in the forest, but something completely different. Very important that it was the most blissful time, early warm autumn, and Ilya, of course, frequented the forest. Getting up in the morning, he quickly packed up, took a knife, a basket, kissed his sleepy wife on the cheek and went to the edge of the forest. Pushing aside another branch, he went out into the clearing. He sat down on a comfortable hummock and took a deep breath. Ilya did not even immediately notice that not far away on the lawn there was a she-wolf, and with her a brood, 2 grown-up babies. God had managed to meet, it flashed through his mind. Although this behavior of the wild beast surprised him very much. The wolf should have sensed a man from afar and taken her children away, but she stands rooted to the spot and looks attentively at the man, as if calling him somewhere. Maybe there's trouble with another cub, and she needs help. Ilya has heard about such cases in nature. The wolf suddenly took a few steps deeper into the forest. The little ones followed her. Then they stopped again. Ilya got up slowly and followed her. The wolf jumped back towards the forest again, as if she was leading the man behind her. Ilya followed the wolves to where they were leading him. Something strange is happening. Ilya had just time to think, when a grunt was heard from somewhere behind him. The man calmly turned around. He knew the forest like the back of his hand, and he didn't feel any danger. The sound was repeated. The mushroom picker looked around, trying to figure out where he was coming from. A huge rotten log lay embedded in the ground nearby. Ilya got up, walked around the hulk and gasped. There was a box right on the grass, and in it a baby was lying on a spread blanket. It was he who made those very sounds, groaning sleepily, and wiggled his tiny hands, pulling them out of diapers. Ilya couldn't even think for a second that someone had thrown the baby out in the woods. That he was confused. Where did his mother go? The man moved away, intending to look for the child's relatives, but he began to cry loudly. Sighing, Ilya carefully picked up the baby in his arms and began to calm him down. But would a normal woman leave her child in a box in the woods, and even in autumn? It is clear that the baby was simply disposed of, and clutching the child to himself, he hurried home. On the way, he thought about the she-wolf who had brought him to the ill-fated clearing. After all, the baby could have become her easy prey, but she, as a true mother, decided to save him. Ilya was afraid to even think about what might have happened to the baby if he hadn't gone into the woods today. After some time, he and Anna managed to adopt a foundling, and then, to the joy of happy parents, they also had a long-awaited daughter. Did you like the story? Like and subscribe to the channel. There is still a lot of interesting things ahead. All the best.